So, TDS just released the third and final night of the Null and Void event, and wow, it was amazing. From the cutscenes, to the music, to the maps, and the actual gameplay itself, it was all S tier in my opinion. A really, really good event. But for me, the true highlight of this event was its story. So that's why in this video, I'm going to go over the entire story and lore of the TDS Null and Void event, sprinkling in my own theories where I see fit, and talking about where the story is headed for future events. So make sure to subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and enough yapping, let's talk about Night 1. Night 1 starts with Scout having some pretty rough nightmares about the events in Lunar Overture. It then cuts to him waking up, and wait! Scout is here, what the f***? He then meets up with Professor V and Nerd Duck, and they all head into the research department conference room, where they meet up with the whole gang. They then go over how cracked we are at TDS, showing... They then go over how cracked we are at TDS, showing how we got all the remaining God shards that we needed to power the portal. Everyone then takes their positions, and Professor V then begins the operation of activating and I think merging the God cubes. However, this goes horrifically wrong, and the shards end up destabilizing, and then create rifts from the dimension that Lord Exo is held in. This then releases enemies that resemble our towers, along with these corrupted and void enemies. And that's the beginning cutscene for Night 1. Before moving on, I want to talk about the devs that worked on this cutscene, as their work was done incredibly well. The cutscene was directed and produced by Profine, who worked on the animation and assembly. The character animations were done by Redube, I think that's how you say it. The visual effects were done by Bard VFX, and the sound effects and music were done by Enthrallist. Overall, this team did so well with this cutscene, as it came out so good in my opinion. Also, massive shout out to the VAs, with Commander being Enthrallist, Dispatcher being Bethy VA, Professor V being MVA, Riftwalker being a freaking turkey, and then last shout out has to go to a writing Kiwi, who not only voiced Lord Exo, but also wrote this fantastic story. Alright, now moving on to the gameplay. The gameplay has us fend off against 3 lanes of Null and Void enemies, along with corrupted versions of our own towers. We see them on waves 5 being the Null Scout, wave 7 being the Null Crook Boss, wave 11 being the Null Freezer, wave 15 being the Null Warden, and wave 17 being the Null Pyromancer. We also get some pretty cool lore drops. The first one being how Dispatcher misses being out there in the field, and how our Pyro sucks at cooking. We then get our next cutscene on Wave 20, which is a huge cutscene, as it reveals to us 2 new characters for the TDS lore, 2x and Riftwalker. I think it's 2x, it could be 2x, but I don't know, I'm going with 2x. We start off by seeing 2x off an entire galaxy, with Riftwalker explaining the situation at hand. 2x then tells Riftwalker to fix the situation, as TDS is going to free Lord Exo at this rate, which will then destroy the meta. And 2x does not really want this to happen, so he sends Riftwalker to go fix our mess that we have created. This ultimately leads us to the final wave, being wave 20, where we face off against Null Commander. After we beat Null Commander, we get our final cutscene for Night 1. The cutscene starts showing how dire the situation is, and how V and ND are not able to stabilize the fragments. Riftwalker then appears through a rift, and condenses the fragments into its cube form, and shrinks it down to be very, very small. He then goes off at the gang for what they have done, stating that the cube should have remained shattered and not brought together, and then going pretty hard on the ignorant gang.
You will eradicate your existence so thoroughly that not even the memory of you will remain.
He then sends us off to the Banlands, where everything that is forgotten and discarded ends up. We then cut to Nerd Duck and Professor V, who are both in serious fear and regret for what just occurred. We then get a sneak peek into Night 2 with the iconic line from the Raider.
A dreadful night, isn't it?
Overall, Night 1 was really good. I really loved the gameplay and how the curses were incorporated. I thought the map was fantastic with how detailed it was, and how it got more and more broken and corrupted as the waves went on. I thought the music was S tier, and I thought the enemies looked really cool and intimidating. But I really loved how the cutscenes looked, and how the story was established. It was genuinely so good. We then flow directly into Night 2, with the gang falling out of the rift into the outer null zone. We then see Narrator getting really annoyed, as the children of Exo used him to bring him to the Temple of Exo and construct their God Cube shards, which afterwards, they then threw Narrator away to the Executioner afterwards. We then jump scare Narrator, and he then gets annoyed with us for what happened in the Lunar Overture event. Titus then sees us and walks over to us to get his revenge, and then gets yeeted across the outer null zone, which appears to be a common occurrence for him. Narrator then threatens us and gets immediately humbled by the Null Guardian. Once again, I would like to go over the team that worked on the cutscene, as once again, they did an excellent job. The cutscene was once again directed and produced by Profine, who also animated the towers and did the assembly. Narrator's animations in the first cutscene was done by Capra, who did such a good job with bringing this chaotic character to life. Carpier? I think I said that right. Did the animations for, I'm assuming, is the Null Guardian, but is named here as the Rift Executioner. I don't know. And they also animated Titus. Redube animated Narrator in the second end cutscene of the night, who also did an amazing job with bringing Narrator to life. Bard VFX once again did the visual effects, and Enthrallist also did the sound design. Another shout out to the VAs, being Bethy VA as Dispatcher, and oh my goodness, I didn't know that my boy Enthrallist was the narrator. Like, oh my goodness, dude, such an amazing performance done with this character. He also voiced Null Guardian and Titus. And lastly, huge shout outs to a writing Kiwi for the amazing story writing. This night was written so well, and I'm so happy that we got to see Narrator again. Now, moving on to the gameplay. The gameplay has us fend off 2 lanes right next to each other with booster pads along the map that speed up enemies. We once again see the corrupted towers, with Corrupted Medic being introduced to us this night. This leads to a nice piece of lore describing Medic's character. And on a side note, I really do like how they're giving all the towers personalities. I think it's so fun. On the map, we also see the curses return, along with scrapped content falling from the sky onto the map, which is really cool. We also get some crazy lore drops with Professor V's backstory, the introduction of the old world, and my favorite interaction of this entire event. Nice conversation, guys. We then get to the final wave, Wave 25, where we face off against the Null Guardian. Once we've defeated the Null Guardian, we get our final cutscene of Night 2. The Null Guardian then falls, with Narrator taking all the credit for our work. And Minigunner, oh! Anyways, Narrator then sees that we survived, even though we did all the work and he just sat around and did absolutely nothing, and then throws a little tantrum. He then jinxes us, and the Riftwalker summons us to the Temple of Exo, where we will have one final battle between the Children of Exo, Riftwalker, and the TDS organization. Overall, I seriously love this night. I think it's better than Night 1 in my opinion, and I absolutely love that they brought Narrator back, and I low-key think he really made this night special. The actual gameplay itself was a lot of fun, as it was much more challenging than Night 1, while still being pretty doable. After our team removed pursuit, I see you, Jackson villain, and also after midnight finally locked in. I really loved the map for this night, and really enjoyed all the old discarded objects falling from the sky. It was really cool and nostalgic. The enemies were also really cool in this night too. I thought the music was really good, and absolutely loved the direction of the story. The interactions between everyone was done so well, but those cutscenes were actually perfect. Each character was voiced and animated so well. All those characters felt so alive and real whilst I was watching that cutscene. It was such a great night. Night 3 starts off strong, with the team once again falling out of a rift with Narrator. It then cuts to the Children of Exo beating up the Riftwalker, or at least trying to. Riftwalker then starts to summon a rift, but is then stopped by Narrator, who grabs him with Lefty. I think it's Lefty? It could be Righty, but I don't know. Cronus then stabs Riftwalker in the gut, and we cut to Scout trying to shoot Narrator. We then see Cronus, who is now wielding the staff with our pieces of the God Cube, merging the 2 half cubes together. We then see Cronus begin the corruption process on Riftwalker, and that is the beginning cutscene of Night 3. Yeah, this is starting to get crazy. Once again, I would like to shout out the devs that worked on this cutscene. Now, I sadly don't have the names of the devs that animated this cutscene sadly. But quick shoutouts to Bard VFX for the visual effects, Profine as director and producer, and Enthrallist for the sound design. I do luckily have a full list of all the VAs who put in an amazing performance. Starting off with Enthrallist as Commander, Narrator, and Cronus, Dispatcher as Bethy VA, Professor V as MVA, Tubai as Zappy Nubs, Riftwalker as a frickin' turkey, Lord Exo as Kyo and Enthrallist, Marcellus as Trellicor, and lastly Ramiel as Tiny Chuck. All their socials will be linked in the description, so make sure to check them out. Moving on to the gameplay of this event. It's difficult. We fend off against 3 lanes of Null towers and enemies for 30 waves, with some really cool Null versions of our towers showing up on this night. The first one is Engineer, who appears on wave 10 and is really difficult. We then see Null Pursuit on wave 15, which is a full flying boss with 17k HP. We then see Null Brawler on wave 23, who is an annoying enemy that jumps around and stuns your towers. We then see Null Accelerator on wave 25, who is a boss that rearranges your towers. We then see Null Necromancer on wave 27, who has so much HP and spawns really high HP skeletons too. And that's all the Null versions of our towers that we see. The lore we also get in this night is insane. We get a lot of details about our towers, starting off with how NG is obsessed with her creations. We then see how Brawler trains with Slasher and Assassin. And lastly, we see how Accelerator loves those hamburgers on Monday and Friday. We then get a lot of details revealed about Lord Exo and the Children of Exo. The first big reveal was how Narrator got us to find Nerd Duck, so that we would ultimately end up joining up together and starting this whole mess. We also found out that Ramiel is a tryhard who wanted to beat us at his own job, and it worked! Bruh! We then find out something huge. The Children of Exo were residents of Trick or Threat Town, and they talk about how we left and did nothing for them after we beat Lord Sinister. Also, Narrator hates the devs. And now lastly for night 3, we don't only get one major boss, we get 2, with the first one being Cronus on wave 20, who has 150k HP. He has an ability where he slows down time for our towers, whilst keeping himself and the enemies at normal speeds. This is a very strong power, and is done so well. Shoutouts to Bear, who programmed this feature by the way. And then we get to the final boss on wave 30, where we verse the Riftwalker and Lord Exo. This is where we get our second cutscene for night 3. It starts off in a black void, with Exo talking through Riftwalker. He then reveals that the cube was his prison this whole time, and it's also revealed that thousands of gods were used to seal off Lord Exo in that cube, which really shows what we're going up against. We then see Lord Exo threaten us, and that takes us to the final wave, wave 30. Wave 30 is really difficult, and is very similar to Night 4 from Solar Eclipse. We once again have the Star Cannon, which we must use to stop Lord Exo from shooting our base and killing us. He also has a whopping 2.5 million HP, along with abilities that can move our towers around and stun our towers too. He is really strong, but if you have enough DPS and manage your cannon correctly, you should be fine, and thus taking him down. Also, shoutouts to Mew, who worked on this fantastic boss. This then leads us to the final cutscene of Night 3. It starts with the Riftwalker fighting back Lord Exo from within. We then see Lord Exo grab Cronus' body and begin the corruption process with him. We see the other members of the Children of Exo expressing their anger and betrayal to this scenario, with Narrator turning a blind eye. We then cut back to Cronus, who accepts his fate, but I personally think Lord Exo is talking through him. And then the merging process is finally complete, and we see Lord Exo return, looking a lot more scary and menacing than before. He then summons a sword and steals Dispatcher, who we find out is actually named Jane. He then walks over to the Riftwalker's body and stabs him, which results in all realms destabilizing. The gang is then sent back through a portal, which we find out is created by Professor V and Nerd Duck. Commander is very upset by this, telling V and ND that Dispatcher was taken by Lord Exo. We then see all these rifts created in the sky, showing that things are about to get really serious now. We then cut to Narrator talking to Lord Exo. Lord Exo then tells Narrator that he has no need for him anymore, which Narrator is obviously saddened by. We then, I'm assuming, get a hint for the Christmas event, with Narrator telling the player that he has a premiere coming up, and we better be there. We then also see him snap, and show that he is really powerful, despite his fun and happy nature. Before I give my thoughts, I want to quickly shout out this comment right here, because if this theory is true, dude, that'd actually be so crazy, like, oh my goodness. Okay, alright, let's talk about this night, sorry. This night was fantastic, and done so well. Everything was perfect in my opinion. I really loved the map for this night, and really enjoyed the gameplay. There was no frame drops at all, even with the amount of enemies that were on screen at all times. The gameplay felt balanced and achievable, and when we finally won, it felt so satisfying. The music was fantastic. The general theme reminded me so much of Solar Eclipse's Final Night, and the boss themes were seriously top-notch. Both fit each character so well, and dude, they're just absolute bangers, especially the beginning of Riftbreaker. Like, just listen to this. Yeah, fire, hey? Go make sure to listen to it on Focus's channel. And then the cutscenes. Wow, they were just all so great to watch. Each character had life and was animated so well, and the voice acting was also just top notch. It really made the characters for me. And lastly, the best part of this event, the story and the event tower. I will make a separate video on the event tower, and that's coming soon. But basically, this event tower is phenomenal. I haven't personally enjoyed any event tower for the last few events. They all kind of fell flat for me personally, with Holopunk and Biologist getting close to there, but sadly not hitting it. This one did. Huge shoutouts to Tyler, who worked on this event tower. It's amazing. And now, the story. Wow. Just wow. I did not expect that ending. That ending was so good. I'm so happy with the direction of the story, pointing out old events that took place and fitting them into this new narrative. It's just amazing. That story had weight and flowed so well. I genuinely have no words. It blew me away. Massive shoutouts to a writing Kiwi. And that's the story for the Null and Void event. Honestly, an amazing story, with my favorite night being night 3. And this event is now for me, my favorite event that TDS has ever done. I'm genuinely so happy with the direction of the TDS story. It took a while, but it's finally getting really good, and I'm happy to see that, as someone who was really invested in this game's lore. Anyways, I've got plans with Warlock, so I'll catch you guys in the next video, and I'd recommend you check out this video. It's about why I don't like the slasher rework, and it's a pretty good video, not gonna lie. Alright, bye bye!